Well, the death of Charlie Kirk and the threat against Lieutenant Governor Gilchrist, just some examples of the increased political discourse happening in our country right now. Many people are feeling the tension, the frustration, and anger from both sides of the political aisle. So how do we try to move through all of this discourse? Well, joining us to talk about it is a political science professor at Oakland University. David Giulio is joining us. David, thank you so much. Let's just kind of look into history for a little bit here and talk about the fact that political violence is not new in the country, but certainly is something that seems to be more escalated right now.
Well, good morning. Thank you for having me. You're totally right. We can go back through history all the way back to the founding of our country and before to find examples of political violence, and you know, some of them are woven into the fabric of our country, whether it's the Aaron Burr, Alexander Hamilton duel, certainly the assassination of Presidents Kennedy and Lincoln, but you know, 3 other presidents were attacked, and we've seen it. You're right, escalating in recent years, whether it's former Congresswoman Gabby Giffords, Congressman Steve Scalise, and even closer to home, as you mentioned, with Governor Gilchrist, or Lieutenant Governor Gilchrist, and the kidnapping plot against Governor Whitmer. You know, there's one thing here that strikes me as different, and that's the fact that Mr. Kirk was not an office holder, was not an elected official, was not a candidate for office. He was really just an activist, right? And those are fewer and far between when we go through history. And I've been racking my brain trying to think of when the last one of those really was. And not to compare the two incidents, but you know, we may have to go back to Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. to find a political assassination of this magnitude.
So, again, not to compare here, but when you look at the ideals of those who carry out attacks like this, people are so far separated now. And I feel like, and maybe I'm wrong here, but even in the history books, when we go back and talk about some of these things, there was always this united front that a lot of these issues were, take civil rights outside of it, were separation was one, but then there was this unifying thing that would usually happen after something. When there's a horrific attack, when something happens, people band together. I don't even know if we feel that way right now.
You know, I think you're right, and I think that is really driven by the kind of information environment that we're living in. And I would imagine that, you know, throughout history we could have found some fringe elements that cheered the assassination of Abraham Lincoln or John F. Kennedy, right? I mean, I think, and undoubtedly there were, but they're not as front and center as they are today with social media. And, you know, anybody can go on to Twitter or Facebook or pick your platform and find, you know, these calls for celebration over the assassination of somebody, which seems to be just because of their views.
You know, it's interesting you bring that up too, because of the availability of the information. I have this conversation in my circles all the time. Are we a lesser society now, or are we just seeing it more often?
I think that with you know, the increase of access to information, the increased ease with which we can tap into all sorts of information, whether it be accurate or inaccurate, it absolutely has to be a part of this discussion, right? I mean, it's just more front and center for us. It's so much more easily accessible to find, you know, those fringe extreme elements and then with access becomes normalization, right? Where and I think it's good for all of us to remember that the online information environment is not reality, right? And to your point, we have seen bipartisan statements from across the political spectrum that denounce you know, the actions taken by this shooter. Even somebody like Gavin Newsom had some very kind words to say about Charlie Kirk, right? It wasn't his Charlie Kirk, excuse me. It wasn't his agreement with Mr. Kirk's views, but certainly respected him as a human being.
Yeah. So to that point, we are seeing leaders on both sides of the aisle try to take the temperature down here a little bit. Is that enough?
No, it's not. And I think that, maybe we're at a point now where, or maybe the circumstances have finally crystallized for folks. But, how many times have we seen the reaction of, hey, this is bad, and we have to denounce violence. And, we are in a time where we need leadership. We need leaders to step forward and talk to the American public in a way that is different. And I think it all starts with the bases on both political sides, right? Where extremism or rancor is often rewarded and incentivized on social media. I think that's where it starts. I think we need leadership where both sides call out their political base when they see something unseemly.
I'm curious, I'm a professor at OU as well, so I see some of these conversations at a much different level with the students there. What has your experience been with how the younger generations are seeing what's unfolding right now?
Well, I think that they're in a rough period, and I think that one thing that is concerning, and certainly, and this having been around OU's campus, right? We're not in this cauldron on campus at OU, but we are seeing some evidence, some empirical evidence that political violence is found to be more acceptable by young people these days than in the past, and I think that's a concern.
That's the problem. It's been normalized.
Yeah, absolutely, and beyond, it's okay. It's to the point now where it's almost encouraged, right? Or yeah, that's a good solution to this problem of, hey, somebody has a different opinion than me.
Gotcha. Okay, David, thank you so much. I do want to point out we're just getting some potential breaking news. President Trump is on the Fox network right now, and he may have alluded that the suspect may be in custody. So it'll be interesting to see what happens here, if that's true, and then how this changes. Do you think that with the suspect being in custody, do you think that if we start to understand a little bit the motivation, that might change the conversation or help the conversation?
First of all, I think it's really good news that somebody has been detained and is in custody. It went on for a long time. I think we often make assumptions about somebody's motives, and that can be dangerous, right? As you know, right? We never want to make assumptions. It can work out poorly. So I think that let's see what is uncovered and take it from there.
Right. Okay, David Giulio, thank you so much for your time on this Friday morning. We appreciate it.